Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's platform. This is the Uganda political platform based here in Sydney, Australia, and today I'm joined by some members of the Ugandan community here to discuss our main topic tonight is riots in Africa with a main emphasis on Uganda. So I'll introduce members. On my left-hand side, I have Eddie Timaneke. Eddie, say hello to the viewers.
Viewers.
And I have Moses too. Mukasa also, say hello to the viewers.
Good evening, viewers.
I have Tony Diesel on my right, please say hello to the viewers.
Habari.
And I have Robert Chiria on my immediate right, say hello to the viewers.
Hello, viewers.
My name is Samuel Kintu. I'll be your host tonight, and as I said, we're going to talk about the riots in Africa. To start with, 2011 comprised many riots in Africa. It has gone on record that 2011 characterized by, it was full of so many riots across the continent of Africa. All of us are Ugandans, but we're going to first have a summary of what transpired in 2011 in the big continent of Africa before we drill down to Uganda and see how riots in Uganda have been taking place and what impact this could have been having on the Ugandan community. So I'll be calling upon Moses to just give us a wrap-up of some of these riots in Africa. Some of them turned into revolutions, and we've seen some of them being codenamed the Facebook revolutions. All those acted as examples to other countries, and we want to see what exactly happened in 2011 as far as riots are concerned in Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. At the beginning of 2011, riots started in the peninsula of Africa, more especially the Arabic Peninsula, Northern Africa, starting with Tunisia, then Egypt, Syria, Libya, and then Uganda. Although in some countries like Libya and Tunisia and Egypt, governments have been changed, we are still witnessing some disturbances as far as Syria and Uganda are concerned, which has taken over the whole year and is still continuing in both countries. And we believe that unless something is done to stop what is going on, many people have suffered because of those situations. But I believe they were purely organized by organized people. They had targets, they had aims, and maybe they have achieved, and some others have not yet achieved. But of course, they have been destructive to our community. That's what I can say for the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Yeah, thank you very much. That was a big overview, and it's good you brought it out our knowledge that actually some of these riots have led to overthrow of governments in some of these African countries, something that we have not yet seen in Africa. Starting with you, Eddie, looking at the impact this has caused in Africa as a whole, what do you think this would mean to Uganda as a country?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have to quickly have an overview of what has caused all these riots. I think the current generation of Africans is more elite and more awake to the needs of society, whereby services are not up to what they expect the government to provide. There's no medicine, there's no roads, there's no unemployment is a big issue. So riots start out as demonstrations, and the way the government reacts is what causes the riots to be what they are, what we're witnessing today in Africa. Unfortunately for Uganda's case, it's been going on now for almost over a year, though very much in the urban areas. But I think they are going to be, with time, we are going to realize the catastrophe that riots cause, whereby the government is spending so much resources to try and curtail these riots, rather than using the little resources that African governments have to provide the services that actually the people rioting are yearning for.
Good.
So in the long run, I think there's no win-win situation the way it's going at the moment.
Exactly. Now, looking at Libya and Egypt, I mean, we've seen some of these, like you say, they start as demonstrations, they turn into riots, and then they have led to overthrow of governments. Just to pick on Robert immediately, do you see a situation that has already happened in Egypt and Libya happening in Uganda?
Talking about Libya and Uganda, the cause of demonstrations and turning into riots, as Eddie has said, is modernity. Modernity. The group of people who have come up now, they are more educated and they expect a lot from the leaders, which is not happening. It's not flowing down to them, and it causes. Now, right now, as we speak, it's very easy. The youth can communicate through Facebook, through Twitter, and so on. So, if you're not matching to the level at which they expect you to do things, then somehow, somewhere, they organize themselves and start saying, I think this is an old man. He's not looking at where the world is going. So I can't say they can't come down to Uganda. Yes, they can come down to Uganda, but at when?
Is a question.
Is a question.
Okay, good. And just to flash back on your issue of modernity, and I'm referring to Tony here, Robert thinks, and Eddie has agreed with that, that the issue of modernity, the massive use of Facebook and other medias of communication has played a big role in inciting people to riot. And my question is, we are not yet seeing such riots to the magnitude of Libya and Egypt happening in Uganda. Is this something soon happening? What do you think the role of modernity or modern means of communication might have an impact to Uganda to cause a riot as big as that caused in Syria, Tunisia, and Egypt, to mention but a few?
Thank you very much. I think I don't want to limit myself to Uganda per se.
Good.
We need to launch into the global perspective and see what's happening in the world at this time. When you look at the demonstrations that have been taking place in last year, even this year, it's not only limited to Uganda or to Africa.
No.
See what happened in Russia recently,
Yep.
what happened in Greece, what happened in America,
Recently.
what happened in Australia.
Even London, yeah.
There is demonstration. But how do demonstrations turn into riots? This is not the first time. Riots have been there in history. They have been there.
Sure.
But what is making the difference now? Yes, modernity is helping in a way because of communication and all of that. But even without that, technology itself is not the cause of riots. It just facilitates. Even without technology, you find that riots will be there. That's what Moses has said, what are the causes. So, technology is just one of the facilitating factors. But there are so many other
fundamental issues. Very good. Moses, do you agree with Tony? He's saying even if technology is not there, the riots, demonstrations have always happened and they will happen. Do you agree with him?
Yes, I do. I do agree. But what I'm about to argue is that overthrowing a government through rioting is a modern way. In fact, it's the backward way. And modern society has good means of changing governments.
Good.
In Uganda, we have sat down, have made a political document, a constitution, whereby we can change leadership from time to time. So if any leader thinks that leadership can be changed through rioting, then that's backward. I can't call that modernity. That's where I differ with my colleagues.
Good.
Yes, because you see what is happening in Uganda. At the beginning, you remember we had an election. Uganda has got a very different political situation with Libya. Libya, they have never seen what an election is. They have never gone to elections since that country was created, many years ago. In Uganda, we have a constitution. During the campaigns, I leaders of actions for change, economicity and the group, we are openly saying that we are going to make Uganda an ungovernable country. You see? As soon as, because we had polls in February, and immediately after the polls, one side emerged victorious with 69%.
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
No, if we can complete first, just slightly complete the point. And
yes,
we shall
because
come back,
we do remember riots have got causes, different causes moreover.
True.
In Uganda, because we want to dwell much on Uganda, the leaders of the riots in Uganda, we are openly saying during campaigns that we are going to make Uganda an ungovernable country.
Sure.
The igniting factor, they said that oil prices have gone up, sugar commodities have gone up, that's why we are starting this. But really, in a leader, any sensible leader, any serious route, could not have started the way they started. Because a leader must know the cure to each and every problem. So, before I leave the floor, I still maintain that overthrowing the government's through writing is a backward way.
It's backward.
Yes, not modern.
No.
Thank
Robert, you wanted to come in?
I'll only add on to what he has said and challenge you.
First of all, do you agree with him?
Not entirely.
He thinks that riot is a backward way of overthrowing the government. There should be better means of changing the power.
There are better means of changing power, but when you fail to use the better means, what do you resort to? Because we have seen elections. They put up elections, and when you are won, you don't go.
True.
You don't accept the results. So what do you do?
Riot.
I mean, it's not right. I'm not encouraging getting rioting, but I mean, they are looking for ways of how they change this. You know? So, if elections were held today and they won you, you don't accept the results, you stay. We have seen this in Kenya,
Yep.
we have seen this in Zimbabwe,
Yep.
we have seen,
South Africa and so on, yeah.
So, when people resort, they use all means to see that their effect is high.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Tony, I see your point up. Is it out of frustration that we see these demonstrations turn into riots? That's Robert's point.
You know, if you look at how it all started in the Northern Africa,
Yeah.
the guy who set himself on fire,
Yep.
his aim was not to overthrow the government. That was not it. His aim was crying out for help.
Sure.
So, people riot not because they want to overthrow the government. That's not the intention.
No.
And by the way, Moses, leaders, you are pointing out the opposition leaders who come up, they don't have these rioters in their pocket. That they'll come on the street and just release them that let's start rioting. But it seems, what is the rallying point?
There's something wrong in society.
What's going on that it triggers all this
Yes.
at a particular moment? Because look here, we've been in the government of Yoweri Museveni, His Excellency, has been power for 25 years.
Sure.
We have never come across riots like that.
Yeah.
Okay? Why at this time?
Why?
At this time, why is it that somebody will just talk and all of a sudden people will gather and start rioting? It's not because of the previous election. We have had so many elections that we have said.
Yep.
But what's the problem? What's the problem here?
Yep.
Not even Uganda. Look at Egypt. Look at other countries.
Tunisia.
Why is it as very easy
Syria,
people
and so on.
bring people together quickly and they start demonstrating?
Yeah. So before I bring in Eddie, you are leaving us with a question which we need to answer. Why now? Because your question, you're giving us a very strong and serious question. Things have been happening, but why now? Why are people all of a sudden triggered into demonstrations and riots? What would be your answer?
What would Moses say?
Before I got Moses, Eddie had something.
I'll try and answer that. I'll try and answer that. I think over time, even we've seen that here in Australia, like the former Prime Minister John Howard stayed for so long, which was just 10 years. But to Australians, that was too long.
Yeah.
But people got tired of him because they think, not because he was a bad leader, but because they wanted more.
Sure.
Now, in case of Africa, we have got like presidents who have stayed for 20, 30 years.
But in those countries, they don't have demonstrations.
Yeah, but they have
not in
promised.
countries.
They have promised. We're going to do this, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. Keep waiting year after election after election,
They don't do it.
and nothing comes up. Meanwhile, the people you're leading are getting enlightened. The education levels have gone up. The rural people have got more like needs that were not there before.
That's really a factor there. The education is playing a key role in this.
That's what I'm coming up to here.
Yeah. Maybe
So,
what
what has happened is people have waited,
for change to
yeah,
happen,
for change to happen.
which is not happening.
Then we have a slogan where the people are saying no change, But then His Excellencies, whatever country, I'm referring to Africa generally, is they're going to say, oh, when I next 5 years, I'm going to build a bypass road. 4 lanes, they build 2 lanes.
And it doesn't happen.
People start wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
What's going on? Then the people start getting agitated. You go to hospital, you can't get a free Panadol. You keep quiet. That's That's why I come in where Robert said, you know, what like my colleague Yatuna has just said, what has triggered it? People are quiet, you know. I go to a hospital, I don't get Canada, I keep quiet.
Yeah.
Here comes an opposition leader saying, oh, the prices have gone up, starts demonstrating. What am I going to do?
Exactly.
Join them.
Yeah.
And try to vent my anger. So, and when you asked before, like, why is it that riots take like different outcomes? I think that comes back to people should realize that in Africa the setup of community is different. We're trying to relate to, like, say, Libya and Uganda. The setup of the Libyan population is different to the setup of the Ugandan population. Why Uganda we have at least 52 tribes, whereas Libya they have 2 or 3. So it's easier to mobilize those 2 or 3 tribes or groupings than to try to organize a country like Uganda where it's 50, and that will never happen. So that's why let us not deceive ourselves that these current riots in Uganda are not going to have an effect. They might have an effect, but it might take 10 years.
Now let me come in here, please, and we are going to be a little bit conscious with time because we can debate this over and over and over. But we are going to zero it a little bit to Uganda in particular. We've seen a very good picture of Africa. In Uganda, just before the elections, presidential elections, it's on record that we had very many riots, before and after. I have examples here on April 29th, after the Egypt revolution started. Uganda riots came over the riots in Kampala over the arrest of Besigye. And then on April 21st, we had again protests in Kampala over rising prices for food and others. Then we had riots in Bulange in January 3rd and so on. Now, again, I'm zeroing this to Moses. Looking at Uganda itself and considering all these riots that have been coming and taking place, can we think it's lack of respect to the government, or is it lack of trust in the government that people are displaying?
I don't think so, because, you know, in a democratic society like Uganda, for a riot to occur, 2,000 people is a population enough to cause a riot.
True.
Just 2,000. You can imagine, we had an election in Uganda, which was monitored by almost the entire world. Everybody was there. The opposition had their own people who did for them the inspection of the elections. They showed them the figures. Everybody agreed with what came out in the elections. But it's very easy for someone to mobilize people. Very easy. Have you thought about what happened in London just recently?
Yep.
A group of people who are frustrated. Frustrations are everywhere. Unemployment, all that stuff, they are everywhere. But for a leader to think that because sugar prices have gone up, then I should ignite fire in my country because I want to take over. Because I'm saying this because we have been seeing messages of these people, action from the edge. Mr. Besigye clearly has been saying clearly that we need to overthrow. Action for change means changing leadership. That's what they have been saying all along. That's what they have been targeting. That's their aim. Their aim is not to put prices down, but to overthrow a government that have been elected, duly elected. And I feel sometimes like I'd like to cry to hear people saying that the government has overstayed. We have got elections after every 5 years.
Every 5 years. Yeah.
The people of Uganda, through their constitution, said that we have a duty to elect one to lead us, and the system that he or she has to lead us through. We have been going through elections all along. They have been organized, they have been prepared. Besigye was part of the group of people who organized this. So whenever you go to people to seek mandate, and they say no, Mr. Besigye or anybody else, just give us a break, then how good is it?
Mr. Chairman, point of information again.
Yeah, Robert, I know you're coming in here, but the biggest, let him come in.
Information?
No, he's not giving information. He's talking through me. Yeah. But his emphasis, like this is the second time he's mentioning it. He seems to have a view that these riots are being ignited by a specific group of people.
Yes.
And he's saying this specific group of people are in the opposition. So he's saying that the opposition are leading people into rioting.
But why should people follow them if there is no problem? If there is no problem, the main problem.
Can I ask
why
people
have to really demonstrate and cause all
Comrade
this
Robert.
is really such delivery.
True.
If you hold an election and you elect a president like we did in Uganda, and then he has the people who come down to send the information down
Yep.
to deliver service to the people. If the service is not going down,
Yep.
what do you expect?
I think-
After a long time, they will say you have overstayed.
I think Mr.
But if
Robert
the services were really flowing down, the hospitals are having this,
Medicine.
the roads are good, Kampala is clean. But if you appoint a minister who is in charge of Kampala
Yep.
and he is not doing the right job to satisfy the citizens, what do you expect? People look for all ways. It's not a modern word he's saying, but you look for all ways to
Out of frustration.
Yeah.
We shall come back to you, Moses, but I will go back to Tony. Yeah.
But that,
Yeah.
that question has been left in the hand.
Okay, you can answer the question.
Yes,
before
because
we go to
you
Tony.
know, for people to follow things, it doesn't depend on whether they are right or not. That's why Satan has been followed by masses, masses and masses. Because what's going on now, what we are saying, people are not following things because they are righteous. No, people can decide to follow the wrong things. If people are not happy with the service delivery, they go to elections and they vote people out. That's
So
what they have been doing.
You're bashing
Yes.
that saying that sometimes
Yes. So
the
I
majority
think-
can be wrong.
Yes, I think Mr. Robert should recall that what is happening in Uganda, the issue is not service delivery. The issue is not who is the leadership. The issue is that these people want to take power. We should realize that from the onset. If we don't agree on that one, then we may not be able to have a clear conclusion on the whole issue. These people want to take power by all means.
Okay, let's come back to that. Let's pause that. Tony, my question was going to be, before you come to Eddie, Robert seemed to disagree with Bwana Moses, but his main area of emphasis is that truly people are frustrated. My question before was, are we seeing Ugandans demonstrating and rioting because one, they have lost trust in the government, two, they are tired of poverty, three, the corruption levels are so high? Are we seeing some of those as the fundamental causes of riots in Kampala?
I usually don't want to limit myself to Kampala and Uganda. I want to come from the world perspective.
Yeah, you can come to that
and then draw down.
True, that's
Uganda.
good. Give us
you
that
know what
picture.
is happening is that if you look at the causes of these recent riots, we have to trace them from 2009 when you had the economic crunch in the world. What happened? Oil prices went up, inflation increased. So you find that in countries that don't have the mechanisms to handle such economic shocks,
Yes.
it left so many people in the cold. Not only Uganda, Malawi, across the country, we had all that. So you find that, for me, I'm not against somebody staying in power for long, so long as they deliver services to the people.
Exactly.
But there is also a debate about democracy, about that.
That will be for next time.
I don't want to go into that. I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is what do we see in Uganda now? What trends? If you look at the economic indicators of the country, what do we see in the last 5 years? Or what do we see from 2009 to present? So, are people demonstrating because they don't want government? Are people, why is it very easy to mobilize people? I don't think Ugandans are people who are mediocre, who don't have brains. That these guys, they just wake up and they tell them, come and they'll just go there without reason. Look, we have traders who decided to close their doors, their shops in Kampala. These guys are business people. Why is it
that is passive demonstration?
You're
Passive
talking about
rioting,
passive, These people, there's that passive resistance which comes in because of the economic crisis. It's not that they want to change government. They are crying out,
Exactly.
saying, look here, can somebody help us?
We need help.
If we close our doors and nobody is coming to our rescue, that's why other people have different needs. So, what we are seeing in Uganda is not only limited to Uganda. It's limited to, it is all over the world, even in America, even here. People went on demonstrating saying that the 10% hold 90% of the what? National wealth. Well, the 90% remain with what? 10%. So they are saying, can we reverse the trend of events? So what we are seeing in Uganda is, I don't want to say lack or absence, but insensitivity in dealing with the ills of the people. I don't know who is to blame for this. We are not here. We are not passionately blaming here.
No. But you should point it. I mean, if you are to blame, you blame the driver.
The blame should go to someone.
Yeah.
But
because service delivery has failed. is causing this.
The bank has to stop with
You know, and then
what benchmark are
and
we
then-
using to say that the service delivered is totally fair?
That's what I was going to come in,
Yeah.
because you're
What
saying
are we using? What they asking?
Uganda is lacking the
Answer that,
mechanisms
Mr.
to handle
Chairman.
economic. Yes. What
Answer
what
that.
what benchmark are we using?
The benchmark is called history.
Okay.
With the current regime, people are starting to refer to even Idi Amin. They're saying, oh, in Idi Amin's days,
There are some
Monaco Hospital was,
people who can do that.
you know, was well equipped. Oh, in the Obote's regime, oh, the roads were okay. If that's the benchmark they're using
To right.
to riot.
Yeah.
How come that this current generation of leaders, which is supposed to be
Educated.
much better than the so-called swine,
Yeah.
as he refers to them, is not giving us the same service delivery as the dictators did?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I will stop you there because of the time. But that comes back to Moses, because Ed is raising a very good point.
Yes,
He's saying has the current government failed to perform compared to the predecessors, and this is causing problems.
That because that one, Mr. Chairman, that's why maybe I'll seek for some extra moments, because it seems I've answered the many questions we have to the government. what one has to realize at this extra point, I sometimes feel short of words to see someone saying that this government is being equated with some I can throw a question. How many kilometers of Tabaka Road do you have here? How many universities? How many hospitals? How many health centers? What was the level of service delivered? What are people talking about? Because we don't want leaders to speak as peasants. We have really, what are we saying? What are we saying? What's going on? Because during Idi Amin's time, how many services were given to people? During that time? How many people were educated? How many people go to hospitals and have treatment? How many health centers? What can I say? Because for a leader,
that's what exactly I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
If people are referring to that era, you know, comparing this era to that era, then there's something fundamentally wrong. Because to us,
you know
to history, that generation was like that era was bad.
The problem, Mr. Chairman,
If we can refuse that, then
some
we have no
leaders
choice.
are so much frustrated and they don't have any hope of leading people. That's why they are resorting to non-issues to ignite fire on the population of Uganda. Really?
Okay, now I'll stop you there. Just before you come in, those are big statements that have come from Mr. Lutu, who is saying that surely there is no hope for some people. They don't have any hope of leading Uganda, so they're frustrated and they want to destroy everything. But as we just one more view before we go for a break, we shall have a 5 minutes break and come back. But before we go for a break, I want to come back to Mr. Robert. Again, the question here comes because we're pinning the government saying that it's not performing compared to the predecessors. But and you're also the one, you came up with a point telling us that modernity has changed. And because of modernity, new media communication and so on, things are happening the way they're happening. So why would we compare history where there was no modern communication to modernity, which is causing a lot of these Facebook revolutions and so on? And we unfairly pinning the government if we go back to history?
The population in a country expects always. Expectation continues. It's a continuing journey. And these are it's one of the weapons people have to demand the government to deliver. I'll give you an example. The number of people who have come abroad, who are living, for example, in Australia here, they are living a different type of life. When they go back to Uganda, it's different. You know, that's another area there.
Two different economies.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, it's not that because Uganda is poor, it doesn't have the resources, it doesn't have the money. The little money which is there, it falls in the hands of the corrupt. They won't deliver the service. This is where my point is.
Yep.
You know, corruption has also contributed to these riots too. You know, you have the cabinet, you are trusting it to do work, and then they are not flowing. An example again is the population of Kampala itself grew huge. You know,
Yep.
do we have people who plan for the country for the next 20 years? there is what you hear, Greater Kampala.
Yeah.
But what infrastructure have you put in place for Greater Kampala to be called Greater Kampala? Right now, you go to Mukono, it's Greater Kampala. It's already full up. You haven't done anything. When shall we jump out of this?
True.
People have to continue demanding for the river. The river. When you don't deliver, you have people who are not really representing you well.
All right.
You cause all this.
True. I'll stop you there. Our viewers, we are going to have a 5-minute break and we shall come back. And when we come back, we shall basically be looking at the effects some of these riots have caused and then the way forward, what we think is the way forward to come for countries like Uganda. Thank you very much. Join us after the break.